I did dig out some stuff out of storage because I want to make better use of what we have here. I'll tell you that in a minute. But what we have is we have some of the older DeWalt 18-volt drills, okay? So from here up, pretty much the same. You'll recognize the trigger, the reversing button, the chuck, the clutch, the speed control up here. Everything I told you about a drill, I'm not going to repeat it. You already know. The difference is a different battery. It is an 18-volt battery, and it just kind of plugs in from the bottom, okay? Again, not trying to trick you guys. Most of our tools are that 20-volt battery. These came from the academies. They were donated, had them in storage. But here's the thing. You guys will be back here soon. We have to stay separated for COVID, so we have to keep our social distances. I don't want guys and girls, I don't want you to have to stand around. So I want to get as many tools as possible. So it was kind of a trade-off. And so what I decided is we're going to go ahead and get these out of storage, and we're going to use them. Just remember, I'm not trying to trick you. We do have a different battery, and you might see this instead, okay? Everything else is the same. Battery's a little bit different. I would love if we could just have all these. We had to have a few of these of the others. Now, along those same lines, here's a good note to take if you're taking notes. Can anybody tell me what this is? I brought this from home. This isn't something that we had here, but I thought
battery adapter.
Yeah, battery adapter. What's it do, Huey? What's an adapter do?
It adapts.
It adapts. Yeah, it adapts. It's common sense, Heartline. It says it's an adapter. What else you need to know? So here's the thing, guys. I've got some of these at home. I've got some of the 18s, some of the 20s. The old battery, when batteries get old, they just deteriorate, and they're no longer rechargeable. So a rechargeable battery is good for many years. 4, 5, 6 is an average, I guess. You might get a little bit longer out of that. But they deteriorate to the point where you cannot recharge them anymore. So you're left with this tool that doesn't have a battery anymore. And in the case of the 18-volt, DeWalt made significant improvements in batteries. And so all of their new tools, you're using this one. But they're very conscientious, and I like this about DeWalt. I'm not a DeWalt salesman, but I like this feature that they knew they already had a bunch of loyal customers that had this 18-volt tool. And just like this, there were 18-volt jigsaws and 18-volt sawzalls, 18-volt circular saws, and 18-volt impact drive, the whole range of different tools. And so they said, how can we use our new battery technology, but we changed it. It doesn't fit anymore. Well, as Huey said, adapt. I just simply plug this in to my drill, my old drill, plug in this adapter, and now I can slide in a modern battery. Now there's a little difference. This was 18 volts and this was 20, but in DC voltage, that is so insignificant that this will run a little bit stronger, but it's not significant enough to make any difference. So I can actually use 18-volt tool with a 20-volt battery. It's not enough difference. It's negligible. Anyway, now I will admit, and you guys can probably look at that too, God, Heartline, that is ugly. That is about the most Frankenstein-looking tool. There's nothing beautiful about that. Like, I love tools, but that thing is just hideous, right? Well, I'll agree with you. I will. But the advantage of being able to use an old tool with a new battery is a pretty good one. So we'll take that, and we'll compromise. Callahan says it looks good. Some of you guys have a weird sense of beauty. All tools are beautiful. Max, that's so profound. Okay, so there's that adapter, guys. Pretty handy for extending the life of your old tools. Okay. It is high. You guys are very insightful, very, very profound. I love your wisdom. Okay, I have my notes today, so I'm looking at this tool can be beautiful if it thinks it's beautiful. Okay. You guys are funny. All right, I'm looking at my own notes here. What else did I want to talk about today in this wrap-up? Talked about the 18 volt. We talked about that adapter. I did want to mention this, guys. I don't want to dwell on it. I think I might have mentioned it previously, but make sure you take advantage of this. Anybody tell me what these are?
Instruction manuals.
Good. Good. Typing it here. You will also refer to, I put it in the chat, owner's manual, just about fire starting material. Good. You guys are full of them today. It's just about anything you buy these days has some kind of paperwork with it. All of these came with the different tools that we bought. If you buy a new phone, you're going to get an owner's manual. If you buy a new home appliance, a new microwave or television, it's going to have an owner's manual. If you buy a new automobile, you're going to get a really thick owner's manual, and sometimes there's like a set of 3 different ones. Anyway, the reason I point this out is you can listen to me all day. I'm pretty knowledgeable. You can go on YouTube and listen to things. You can read things on the internet, but this is the source directly from the manufacturer. So it's always a good resource. I don't want you to just throw it away. Take a look at it. Don't start a fire immediately with it. Jason, read through it. Some good information here. Things like how to assemble it if the tool needs assembly or the product needs assembly. How to maintain it if it needs maintenance, if you have to upkeep with it. How to operate it. How to troubleshoot if something's wrong. There's always usually good troubleshooting information. Hey, this thing doesn't turn on. Oh, check the switch, right? So I won't dwell on that. Just remember, these are very good pieces of information. We have these here for all of these tools if you want to see them. Through the magic of the internet, I bet you could find just about any owner's manual for about any product that's still in existence that you want to. People are putting those out there, even the antique ones. I did want to show you, again, minor variations in models. I showed you an old 18-volt drill, very similar to the 20-volt drill. Those 20-volt drills that I was using as an example last week, stay on track, guys. Last week were about 4 years old. Got those when I was at Imagineering, and we brought them with us over here to Ignite when we came over. There are 2 brand new drills like this and 2 brand new impact drivers that we just got in. They're fresh out of the box. They made, again, a few minor tweaks on them. Everything I've told you about this is all the same. I just wanted to point out one little difference on this newest drill. Right down here, so if I'm looking at the drill, down where the battery is in the front, right here in the front, I'm gonna orient that. There is a little slider switch right here. That little slider switch is to turn the light off. Remember last time I showed you, if you squeeze the trigger, the little LED light comes on, it lights up your work area. You let go of the trigger, a few seconds pass, the light turns off automatically. Okay. Somebody, I guess, thought it might be a good option to be able to turn that off. So now I can have the light on, I can have the light on a dim setting, or I can turn it off completely if I don't want to be bothered by that light. So just a little newest version has that little feature added in. So if you see that, you know what it is. The rest of the operation is the same. Likewise, the newest, latest impact also has a little slider switch. Again, if I orient you here we are up here in the very front where the battery slides in. Just a little more adjustment setting for the impact force. So if I don't want that full impact force, I can go to a lower setting. Just a 1, a 2, and a 3. A high, a medium, and a low setting for the impact force. I can dial it back a little bit if I want. All right, speaking of the impact, boy, did I leave out something, guys. It wasn't intentional, but I started kind of reviewing. I was reflecting. I was like, you know, I forgot something on an impact driver. We talked a lot about driving screws, right? So I said, hey, this is great for Phillips head. For a Phillips screw, I can drive with the Phillips driver. What else did we use for driver bits? Anyone? Torx?
I'll need a second to pull up the notes again.
Torx, remember Torx? Thank you, Caleb. Torx, Squarehead, Robertson, all those. But I was kind of narrow-minded, guys. I was focused on the screw, and I forgot something very important. And I was going through the toolbox and reflecting and said, what am I missing? What have I not covered with these guys? Because I want these guys to be smart. And I started thinking about it. And I looked around, and now I lost it. Guys, come on, Hartline, get with it. Uh-oh. Found it. Huey? Mullins? Heilman? Brewer? Somebody. What is that thing?
An adapter.
An adapter. Good. An adapter to what? A battery adapter? Remember, that's an adapter.
Socket adapter.
Socket adapter. Thank you. I see it in the chat. And Caleb very accurately specified 3/8 adapter. Okay. So here's the thing, guys. For you that are maybe wondering what the heck are we talking about, look at this side right here. You recognize that? You're going to say, Heartline, I know what that is. That is a 1/4-inch hex shank. I'm going to say, you're right. What do we do with a 1/4-inch hex shank? Well, remember the 1/4-inch hex shank fits right into my impact driver, right? Fantastic. Okay, just like that screwdriver bit. There's my Phillips bit. So I know I can put it in here. And then somebody said socket. What's a socket? Well, I don't want to, I talked a lot about those screws, and I'm thinking I covered my woodworker folks, right? The folks that are building things, construction, woodworking, hobbies like that. I forgot about all my mechanic guys out there, guys and girls, right? So some of you guys said, what about nuts and bolts? What if I'm working on my dirt bike? What if I'm working on my car, my truck, my boat, my RV? Starting to sound like a Geico commercial, right? My boat, my car, my RV, my home, what about all the things with nuts and bolts? I'm working on an assembly line. Can I use that impact driver? Well, yeah, you just need the adapter. So now, this whole set of sockets, snap on, click to connect. Now I've got an automated tool for all those nuts and bolts, and not just for wood screws. So look at what I just did. With that one little adapter, I just increased my capability. All the shallow SAE, deep SAE, metric, all that. I used to use this hand ratchet, right? You guys have seen these before. I used to have to wrench by hand, turn this manually. Now, I can use that impact driver. All right, I do want to cover a couple little more things before we run out of time. Okay, let's talk about this real quickly. Anyone know the name of this one?
Reciprocating saw.
Reciprocating saw. Thank you, Huey. That's a tough one to say. I'm going to type it in the chat just so reciprocating saw. I'll make sure I spelled it right. Reciprocating. So I'll get back to you, Caleb. Good answer, Caleb. I'm gonna jump back to you in a minute. Reciprocating. Anybody know that word reciprocating all by itself without reference to a saw? What's that mean?
It goes back and forth.
Back and forth. Yes, yes. So if I'm having a conversation with you and I give you some information and you give me some information back, we're reciprocating the information, or that's reciprocation. So reciprocation, the words back and forth. So you could say this handsaw is reciprocating. I move it back and forth. That's a reciprocating action. The jigsaw up and down is a reciprocating action, but we already used the jigsaw word. So this saw is working by reciprocating action. The blade goes up in here. We'll talk about that more in a minute. The blade moves back and forth. What am I contrasting that with? Like a circular saw, right? The circular saw we talked about last time goes in a circle, round and round and round, circular motion. So we're distinguishing this as a blade that moves back and forth. Okay, so reciprocating saw is the official name. I want to point out what Caleb said. Sawzall. Okay, the original inventor of the Sawzall, or the reciprocating saw, was actually not DeWalt. It was Milwaukee. So if you have any red tool fans out there, Milwaukee tools are red and black or red and silver, not yellow. It's a competing tool brand. Also very nice tools. They are the ones that Milwaukee invented or came up with, designed the first reciprocating saw. And I'm not sure I'm making this up, but I imagine that there's a room full of engineers and they said, hey, we have this great exciting new saw. And the manager said, well, what does it do? And they said, well, it's a reciprocating saw. And the manager said, well, that's not very exciting, right? Again, I'm imagining this. So somebody says, well, it's a saw that can saw through almost anything, right? Because I'll tell you in a minute more, but the versatility is it's really good at sawing lots of different things. So the manager's still not convinced. He's like, saws through a lot of different materials. I still need something catchy, guys. Something that's going to grab the public, something that has a jingle to it. Yes, Hannah, I saw that. So anyway, so somebody said, well, what about saws all? In other words, saws everything. It saws all. It can saw anything you put in front. So the name Sawzall kind of stuck, and Milwaukee ran with that. It became so popular that most people, even if this is not in Milwaukee, they will still call it a Sawzall. So it's a brand name, right? Like Kleenex is a brand name of tissue. Some people would say, I need a Kleenex, and you hand them any brand of tissue, Puffs or whatever. So likewise, many people will still call this a Sawzall. I frequently call it a Sawzall, even though the brand name is not Milwaukee. It's okay if you call it a Sawzall. They're kind of interchangeable. It's an accepted use of that brand name. Milwaukee's the one that loses out because now their trade name is kind of washed up. But anyway, that's the story behind Sawzall. You can call it either one. You will see it misspelled sometime. I think sometimes people call it a zaw saw. And I think that comes about because in our brain, we're trained that everything is a saw. This is a reciprocating saw. This is a jigsaw. I showed you a circular saw. I've got a hand saw. I've got a table saw. I've got a miter saw. I've got a panel saw. We're so ingrained to thinking it's something blank, saw, that when I say sawzall, like the saw goes at the end. So they kind of switch the syllables around. They put the saw, where really it's saw. Once you understand saws all, makes more sense, right? Some people call sawzall, saw, lots of different, yeah, saw. Yeah, Hannah's referring to a video that she shared with Mr. Klein and I. I'd share it with you, but Hannah will probably admit there are a few things in there, a tiny bit, maybe inappropriate. So anyway, but the origin of saw names, origin of tool names is kind of a fun thing to think about. Like when we talked about the Phillips screw, how that really wasn't Mr. Phillips, it was Mr. Thompson. The Sawzall name comes from Milwaukee. It gets confused. Fun stuff. I like that trivia, kind of tool trivia stuff. All right, let's keep going. We're going to run out of time, and I'll start telling you tool stories, and you guys will be bored. So let's talk something else. Let's go back to the Sawzall for a minute. I'm not going to go through all the features. You guys recognize it. The battery goes in here. This is a older style 18 volt. I had to bring my own in because we had one of these for 20 volts in this fabrication lab. Somebody's borrowed it or misplaced it. I'm going to have to track it down. I'm a little upset about that. But anyway, battery goes in here. You know that. There is a trigger, just like all the other tools. The trigger starts and stops it. There is a trigger lock up here. So I can lock the trigger from actuating. So if I'm picking up the tool or putting it down, I don't accidentally start the saw. Those are all similar features to what you've seen. This also has a toolless blade change. So remember the jigsaw, I don't need a key, I don't need a wrench, I don't need a screwdriver. I just have a little lever right here. We're trying to listen. Open this little lever up. That opens the jaw. Right? The saw blade goes down into the jaw. Then I close the lever, and that grabs that saw. If you do it correctly, insert the blade, lock the lever. That locks the blade in there. The saw jaw, yeah. You guys are funny. Anyway, it's a quick changeover, just like the jigsaw. I can change the blade quickly without a tool, so another toolless blade change. The reason is, again, just like the jigsaw, this can cut metal or wood. So if you're writing it down, this can cut metal or wood with different blades. I won't review all the blade stuff all over again. Keep on track, guys. The blades come in all different varieties. We talked about the jigsaw blade extensively last time. I told you about things like gullet, teeth per inch, rake, all those different tooth geometry, all that terminology. That's going to be very similar. Okay, the blade has a shank. It's different, but it has a shank. That's the part that attaches to the saw. Okay, so similarly to all the jigsaw blades, the sawzall blades or the reciprocating saw blades are going to be similar. This also has this feature right here. It's a base. Whenever I'm using the saw, I want to have that base up against my material. If you remember our discussion about the jigsaw or about the circular saw, I also told you there was a base, and that base had a certain name, and it is
the shoe.
The shoe. Thank you, Hannah. Shoe. Just like it sounds, just like the one that goes on your foot. Keep the shoe up against your material. If you're off a little bit, or you're angled, or you're not flat, you're going to get bounce. You're going to get an unstable, unsteady cut. So keep the shoe or the base up against it. All right. Talked about the reciprocating action, key, feet. Okay. One thing I always emphasize with you guys is I'm not trying to make you an expert on using these tools necessarily. You're not going to come out of here and be an expert carpenter when you leave. But what I want you to know is what tool is good at where it shines, where it's not so good. So tell me something about why would I grab this saw instead of the jigsaw? Well, contrast it for me. Tell me about this one. Anybody? Anybody have any thoughts?
The Sawzall is very versatile.
It's versatile. Good. Good. Looking for something a little more different. Any other comments? Well, let me review for a minute. Larger, powerful, larger things. Yes, those are both true. Those are both true. The jigsaw, remember, the jigsaw really shines on curved surfaces in thin materials, or sorry, curved cuts. So if I want to cut out a wavy line, if I draw a wavy line, this is very good at following a wavy line. I can cut and make nice curving cuts in thin materials with the jigsaw. That's where it shines. The circular saw, remember from last time, the circular saw, where is its strength? Its strength is in cutting nice, straight, long lines, right? This one is good at neither of those. It doesn't necessarily cut really nice straight lines. It's really not good for cutting like really nice continuous curves along a line. This one is good for Huey beat me to it. An email thing popped up right on top of the chat. God darn it, don't do that. Demo. Okay. All right, if you guys are writing anything down, I can just about guarantee you one of my favorite questions is, what is this reciprocating saw best at? Okay? So if you want a good note, one good note for the day, you should have several, but one good note, the reciprocating saw, or otherwise the Sawzall, is good for demolition and rescue. So basically this saw, you don't care what it looks like. This one will make nice, pretty cuts for furniture. The other one makes nice, straight cuts, the circular saw. I don't care. I'm in a hurry. I am in a hurry. I want to get done. Grab this one. I don't care if it's a nice finish. I don't care if it's a straight line. I don't care if the edges are rough. I'm in a hurry. Time is money, or I'm trying to save someone's life. So demolition, I'm tearing something down. I'm remodeling the house. I'm going to tear out a wall. I want to get rid of some other things. I'm just going to get it out of the way. This is quick, fast, and efficient. Not pretty, but fast and efficient. Same thing with rescue, okay? Firefighters love this a lot, rescue people. It's very portable. The battery's in there. I can grab this and go. If there's an auto accident, I can use this for extrication. Maybe somebody's stuck in the car and I have to cut part of the car, okay? So it's great for that. Some industrial accident or something, I got to get somebody that's trapped. I can use this in a variety of different positions. So if you're going to remember one thing about this saw, demolition and rescue for this saw, okay? Not really good at those other things that I mentioned. Not really good at straight cuts, not really good at fancy curve cuts, not good at smooth finish. All right, everybody got that? So along with that, by the way, this particular, here you go, here's Milwaukee. Told you about the Milwaukee Tool Company. Milwaukee made this blade for their Sawzall. It's called the Axe. Wood with nails and demolition. So if you're tearing down a wall in a home or something, this one's going to go through the board, through the wood, through the nails, anything you point at it. So good for demolition. Now, I don't know why they called it the Axe, because I've never tried to cut a nail with an axe, but I guess the point is you're just kind of hacking at it, right? Which is what I said, demolition. Okay, Sawzall, reciprocating saw, great for demolition, great for rescue, keyless tool change, shoe, trigger, battery, trigger lock. Cuts metal, cuts wood, cuts plastic, cuts through anything, saws all with the proper blade. All right. What do we got left? What do we? Anything and everything. Who knows this one? I think this is our last battery powered tool. Angle grinder, yes, yes. Angle grinder, several of you popping up there, Caleb, Landon. I would add, guys, just as a refinement, right angle grinder. Right angle, right? So the angle, the right angle coming from, here's the motor, and the axis of the motor is here. The axis of the grinding wheel is here. So I've actually got a right angle. So you'll hear it called right angle grinder. Yep. Speed grinder. I've heard snag grinder too. SNAG. I think that's more like a welding term. Snag grinder to get rid of the little rough edges. But anyway, yes. Grinder implies that I'm trying to remove material, right? I'm grinding, I'm surfacing, I'm smoothing, all those things I can think about when a grinder. So the beauty of this is, some of those, let's just talk about features for a minute. There's that 20-volt DeWalt battery again, slides right in. Trigger to operate it. You guys are getting familiar with this, right? That index finger is going to become very handy in the fabrication lab. So I squeeze the trigger to turn it on, let go to turn it off. Again, there's a safety trigger lock right there. So I can store the tool safely when I'm not using it so that I don't accidentally press the trigger. Try to use that when you can. All right, this one's good for right-handed or left-handed users. So I'm right-handed. I'm going to grab the tool like around the handle here. I'm going to use my right index finger. This handle up here is for stabilizing. So I'm going to put my left hand on this, so I can manipulate this thing. It's easier to hold it and to manipulate it wherever I want to go. But they thought about the lefties too, and so I can actually take this handle and unscrew it. It's threaded in, and I can move it over to the other side. So I can go from here to this side, and I can thread it into that little hole, threaded hole right there. So basically, if I'm right-handed, I'm going to grab the tool this way, okay? Right hand on the trigger. And if I'm left-handed, I can switch, put the handle on the other side, so I can still do those kind of manipulations. This little circular disc right here is the replaceable tool cutting part. There's a little nut in the middle here. I can remove that, and then I can change this disc to different things or different properties, different purposes. This particular one is a diamond tipped wheel. So if you look very closely, this does not have teeth like a saw blade. It has little tiny industrial diamonds. So I didn't steal a bunch of jewelry. It's not a $10,000 blade here. The industrial diamonds are there. There's a little money in there, but it's basically just a very hard abrasive material for cutting through the material. All right, but I can take this wheel out. I've got a variety of other things. Here are some composite wheels. These are a less expensive alternative. They're also very, very thin, so I can cut through metal with this one. So you need to make sure you always read the label. This one's for metal. Here's another very similar thin wheel for cutting. However, this one is labeled masonry. Anybody tell me what masonry is? Bricks. Good, bricks. That's one. Good, lots of people chiming in there. Brick. Brick, stone. Good. All those are good answers. Brick, stone, block, concrete, mortar, right? Concrete, mortar, block, brick, stone, all those kind of things, right? Is masonry. That's all grouped together, masonry. So that kind of building material stuff. So I want to make sure I get the right one. These wheels, as they wear away, they're a composite. They just wear away. So here's a brand new one, 4.5 inch diameter. As I use it, it wears away. It gets about this small, and it's no longer usable because you don't have any more reach. So it's a really inexpensive throwaway kind of disc. This is what it looks like when I start. As it wears, I just chuck this away and put a new one in. Okay. I also have a thicker wheel like this that I can use for grinding. So when I say grinding, imagine I've got some metal structure and I've welded it all together, and the weld sort of has a wavy edge to it, or there is sharp edges on something. I'm basically going to grind away those. Okay, I'm just grinding away the sharp edges by this abrasive action. I can have ordinary sandpaper disc like this, and then I can have one like this. Anybody know what this is named? Guys, I know it's almost time to go. If you give me one more minute, I'll finish up. Yeah, great, flap wheel. See what Caleb and Hewitt and Landon have written in there? Flap wheel. Basically, this is a bunch of little pieces of sandpaper layered all together. Each of one of those little lines is a little flap or a little flap of sandpaper. And the beauty of this is, this one might wear out pretty quickly because it's just a single sheet. Where this one, the cool thing about that is as that wears away, I'm getting a new little fresh edge of sandpaper. So they're more expensive, but they last a lot longer. Okay, so just a longer lasting sandpaper wheel made up a bunch of individual little flaps of sandpaper. I also can clean metal. So if I need to clean off rust or paint or scale or any kind of stuff like that, I've got a really aggressive wire wheel here, just stiff wire bristles. I've also got this sort of composite kind of wheels, like a scrub brush. It's good for removing paint, smoothing surfaces. Basically, many kinds of different wheels. Here's that diamond wheel in the package. Good for cutting metal. Okay, it's a brand new one. You can maybe see this a little bit Might be able to see the diamonds a little bit better on this brand new one here. They're just cemented on there. Remember we talked about carbide, how that carbide's cemented to the wheel, to the saw blade. That's just going to be little pieces of diamond, little micro pieces. All right. I think there's probably more. I think we covered everything that I wanted to get through. I know we're running a minute or two late, guys. I appreciate that. The good news is the buses aren't here yet, so you're not missing your bus. I know. I'm just kidding. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Thanks, McKenna. Have you ever had a wheel explode while using it? No, but very good story there. So what Caleb pointed out is, yeah, you guys got to clean up. The good news is, guys, it's just me cleaning up this time. You're easy. Guys, these are composite, okay? And remember how we talked about carbide? It stays sharp a long time, but it's not very impact resistant. Well, same thing with these. You don't want to bump these. If you chip a part out of it, or you're using it and part breaks away, it gets very unstable because now it's out of balance. Because this thing's spinning around. I think these things spin 10,000 RPM or more, right? 16,000 RPM, I think some of these are rated for. So imagine this thing flying around. It's flying around very smoothly, and all of a sudden a piece breaks out. Now it's out of balance. And you guys have seen with something out of balance, it starts to wobble, 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 and then it just starts flying apart. And so these can explode. So the caution here, and thank you for bringing that up, Caleb. The caution is, please avoid trying to damage them by breaking a chip out. So fragile, don't drop them, and don't impact the material. You want to smoothly move back and forth where you're not slamming it into the material. They can break, a chip breaks off, they get out of balance, they get unstable, and then they can fly apart, right? So with that, I must add also, thank you. Yeah, diamonds can break too. Good point. Diamond again, and that's true for any of those. So the diamond wheel can be brittle also. That's a generally carbide. We talked about diamonds. We talked about these composite materials. All those have that same property of very hard and very wear resistant, but also very brittle. The last thing, sorry guys. Since Caleb brought this up, okay, it can break, but these also create a huge amount of sparks, especially when on metal. So if I'm using that diamond blade, or I'm using any of these blades to cut metal, I will see a lot of sparks, like a shower of sparks. And those sparks are the little pieces of material that are metal or whatever that are shooting away from the product. So if you use this, not just safety glasses, but you will need the full safety shield. We have those here. So if you need to use this, let me know. We'll get you geared up. Gloves are a good idea. Long sleeves are a good idea. And also, you need to be very aware of your work area. So if I'm using this tool, I want to make sure that no one's in my close proximity that might get shattered or showered, I should say, showered by the sparks. And also, I don't want to use it by anything that's flammable. I don't want to have a stack of newspapers right next to me and use this, or a flammable fuel, gasoline or something like that. So this is going to require extra caution because there's a shower of sparks. I know it's late, guys. I apologize. Thanks for sticking around a few extra minutes. And I will see you next time. Have a great weekend. There's no school on Monday. Okay, so you're off on Monday. I'll see you back here Tuesday. Have a great weekend.